Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This video will be about the VMware NSX, more specifically about the load balancer reverse proxy. The reason why I want to show you this because I didn't find a correct way, not much information about reverse proxy on the internet. So I want to share you my experience and my thoughts and how manage to figure it out. I did set up another load balancer with Camp. You can watch my other video of that one. I will put in the description and put a link in the description. Now, this diagram is a simple presentation of what I want to accomplish. So I have the internet on the top here. I have my perimeter gateway and I set up my load balancer, and behind that is the web servers. Now, a typical load balancer and multiple web servers is fine if you have the same website running on these web servers and you want to load balance and load balance the load about it. But my idea was because I have only one IP address and I want to host multiple websites on that IP address. So I forward my port 80 to my load balancer, and I want my load balancer to decide on the header type here where to redirect it. So that's all the point. Now the drawing is not correctly because I set up a one-armed NSX load balancer, and it looks like you have three interfaces here, but no, it's only connected to one segment of network, so it's one-armed. The reason why I connect my web servers to the NSX is because I want to see my source traffic. This way I'm able to watch my source traffic. If I don't do that, if I don't put the gateway of my web server to the NSX server, NSX load balancer, then I won't see any of my source IP address, and I will always see the load balancer IP address. So that's an important thing to do if you still want the source IP address of the visitors. Okay, so let's just dive in. I will go in and dive in the WebSphere client. So log in your vSphere center, your vCenter, and go to Home and Network and Security. That's the place to be. Then you can see here NSX edges, and I already set it up. So I'm gonna go through the settings, what I did. I'm not gonna deploy and everything, but I'm gonna through the different steps. So double click on your edge. If you deploy it, you can set up multiple interfaces, multiple IP addresses on the same segment or something like that. So what I did, so let's go to manage. And the first settings comes up. So of course, set up your correct DNS, the size of it. I'm not going to treat it. There are videos enough about that, sizing and its availability, DNS configuration. There's enough video about it. If you want, I'll make one. Leave a comment. The interface is just one interface, like I said, on that specific segment of network. You can set up multiple NICs, of course. For now, it's 10 NICs. I don't know if that's the limit for this size of, it's a large one. So, the load balancer, yeah, you have to enable it first. So, go to your load balancer, click on global configuration, and you can see it's already enabled. But if you click edit, you can set it to enable or disable. So I've enabled these three options. Then I've created the application profile. You can use the same application profile for multiple virtual servers, or if you want, you can split up per application you want to publish. So this one I called web servers, and it's just an HTTP profile, which is enough for web servers. So persistence is nothing, there is nothing to insert and forward and such. You can use HTTPS, TCP and UDP for different, like you said, TCP, but for now HTTP is enough. Okay, then that's made. I didn't do anything on service monitor because I used the default HTTP monitor, so that monitors port 80. For the rest it's fine for me. The pools. Now, pools. Because if you have multiple web servers hosting the same website, you can create one pool and put in all your members in it. But because I want to do a redirect on header source, then every server needs a pool. So I've got one pool for my web, and I've got one first web server, sorry, and I got a second pool for my second web server. Now the details are simple. If you create it, just set a name. Keep in mind that it should be a simple name because you're going to use this name in the application rules later. I set the round robin algorithm, and I added one member, my web server 1. Then what I mentioned before is the transparent mode. Now, like I said, if you don't enable transparent mode, you don't see the source IP address. You only see the IP address of your NSX load balancer. So I don't want that. I want my source IP address. So enable this, and later on we're gonna change the gateway from our web server to the load balancer. I created the second one. It's the same as the first, except the member is my second web server. Then I'm gonna skip the virtual server. I'm gonna skip right to the application rules. Why? Because you're gonna need it in the virtual server. Now the application rule, that's a little bit tricky. Only thing I could find on the VMware website was the application rule examples in the VMware documentation for NSX. So the 6.3, I'm using the 6.3, but it's probably still the same as 6.4. Now, I thought this one was the correct way to go, route by domain name. For some reason, didn't work. So I start looking on the internet, and I came across a documentation that referred to HA proxy version. So all the ACL rules here are based on the HA proxy configuration manual. And this one helped a lot. I recommend you put it in your favorites or save links somewhere. Because everything is explained here in details. So let's see if I can show you the list. You get the global parameters here, read that. But the important one is here, not important one, the complete list. Let's see if I can show you a little bit faster. Here. This is the complete list used for application rules. So the most important one is the ACL in my case, and the backend. Backend is somewhere here, or the use command or something. Complete on the bottom, use backend. This site helped me to understand the problem with my application rule here. So let me pull this up. In the example of VMware, there is no point at the end. Maybe it's not necessary because it's the head of the domain, I think, or something. It's not a subdomain. Mine is a sort of a subdomain, I think. That's why it didn't work. So after reading, let's go to the bottom here. If I can find it fast for you here. Okay, here I found it. This one shows we scroll up, what the domain does, what the BEG means and such, and the M and the options here, the M, the F, the I and such, what it means. So looking at this example, which is this sample fetch method is equivalence for doing stuff. So I was thinking this looked very much similar, but they used the M, but all of the rules included the point at the end. So I used the example of VMware, but I set a point and it worked. So the access list, that's the name, that's just the name, you can use what you want. And then I used header, domain, and then the I is something, ignore case or something. Ignore case during matching of all subsequent patterns. I'm not sure what it means, but I would have used, I'm gonna test later if the M works. Specific pattern matching. So this is the pattern, this is the string, but keep in mind to use the point at the end. And then use backend, of course, the web pool we created if the ACL list comes in the rule. Then we go to virtual server, of course. We create a virtual server and we just use the application profile we created, or the default one if you want, if you created one. Then you set up the IP address, that's the IP address of your interface, and the protocol, and then the monitor port. Oh, sorry, it's port 80. And then, important one to do, don't set the default pool. Because I'm doing reverse proxy, I don't want to go, default to, let's say web server 1. I want them to really choose. So that's one thing I had to do. And the other thing is add the application rule here. So that, I call it reverse proxy. You can expand that rule as many as you want if you have multiple other websites. So that one, and then that was that. And the last thing I had to do, well, then it came up and running, but the last thing I did was this one. I changed my gateway from the firewall to my load balancer, and I could see my source IP address then, and that was pretty nice. So short review, short one. Load balancing, just need an application pool. In the pool, set up your different separate pools for each server, for the different websites. Create the application rule first, and then create your virtual server with the application rule attached. That was it. I want to thank you for watching. If you have any ideas or comments or other problems, I will leave a comment and we'll try to answer it. If you liked the video, thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. And if you want more to see of my videos, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.